Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. Basprabhu Jirli from Banaras Hindu University. Today, we are going to talk on a module, History of Extension Services in the Post-Independence as a part 3. This paper is going to cover the concept and dimension of extension education. Coming to the objectives of this course, unlike the other modules, in this particular module, we are going to understand the role of technological inputs in the process of development. All the developmental programs we studied so far were having agriculture and allied disciplines as one of the component of developmental programs. Yes, the technology, what is the role of technology that we did not identify as a separate entity? We tried to use the inputs, but it was not given due importance in those things. Nevertheless, the set of programs that we are going to discuss under this part are exclusively agricultural development programs. That is why we said that the role of technology in the process of development. Here, core of the issue is agricultural technology, and ways and means to disseminate this technology are being dealt by the extension education process. Here again we may come across the issues like adoption of group approach and the community mobilization, etc., which are the part of methodology. They are contextual issues in implementation of these technology oriented development programs. Core issue is dissemination of agricultural technology. Whatever the methodology that we are going to use, ultimately the technology should be transferred. The first program that we are going to discuss under the technology oriented extension programs is Intensive Agriculture District Program, which was implemented in the year 1960. Popularly, this program is also identified as the package program. Why it is so, that we will discuss in the later part of the discussion. The objective of IADP was to demonstrate the feasibility of increased agricultural production by concentrating on all factors of production at the same time in an integrated action program in selected areas. After independence, the primary need of the nation was to achieve self-sufficiency in food grain production. That was the most critical phase the country was passing on, wherein, being a predominantly agriculture-based country, India was importing the food grains from other countries. Governments wanted to get rid of that import program, and we wanted to achieve the self-sufficiency. Hence, the programs which were involving good amount of technologies like agriculture technology were planned and implemented, wherein the entire emphasis on demonstration of feasibility of the agricultural production by adopting the improved methods of agriculture and improved technologies. So, in implementation of this particular program, there were certain essential features which we did not find in the earlier programs. The first essential feature of this program was, it is rather mandatory, preparation of individual and village production plan. What does this individual or the village production plan means? You have to decide in advance what are the crops that you are going to take up and in how much area that you are going to take up, which is going to help the extension service providers to supply you the necessary inputs, that too in the time when and where you are in need of. So, that is how the village production plans were prepared. So, individual plans, when we compile it for the entire village, it becomes the village production plan, and it becomes an input for the government agencies to provide you all the inputs. The second essential feature was adequate and timely supply of credit and inputs based on the production plans. And in the first part we said that it is also known as the package program. Why it is so? It will be clear to you after discussion of this particular issue. In the second feature of this particular program was the adequate and timely supply of inputs. Credit is also an input. What is that input that we are referring to in agriculture? It is seed, plant protection chemicals, irrigation water, fertilizers, implements, so on and so forth, and the credit and the information. All these inputs were provided to that individual who is having his own production plan. That is what is the crux of this particular program. Because we are supplying everything, it is a package that is given to the primary producer. That is why we said that it is a package program. Then, organizing cooperatives and marketing societies. This is the essential feature for Indian agriculture. Why we need to organize people into small groups or the cooperatives or the marketing societies? The typical nature of Indian agriculture involves around 80% of the population are having around 30% of the total arable land, and the remaining 30% of the population or 20% of the population is having access to almost 70% of the land resources. So, under such contrasting situation, the number of small and marginal producers are very high in Indian context. So, under such circumstances, if they do not organize themselves into small cooperatives or the marketing societies, their products are not going to fetch the appropriate price in the market. So, that is what is key feature, and that is how under IADP organizing people into different societies was given highest priority. Then strengthening the transport, it is part of the government, and to provide the infrastructural support to the agriculture, not only agriculture, for all other sectors. Yes, agriculture is also one of the beneficiaries of that. Then coming to the analysis and evaluation of the program, it is part and parcel because the primary producer is also involved and he has to be part of the analysis. So, now the program which was so meticulously planned and implemented definitely resulted in the increased levels of production as far as agriculture is considered. Whatever the achievements that we had later, in the later part of this particular decade, we achieved self-sufficiency in food grain production, but there were some shortcomings while implementation, while planning this particular program. What was the shortcoming? Let us try to understand one by one. The first and foremost thing that was reported was lack of educational approach and emphasis is on the target. Again and again, we are emphasizing on having the educational approach in all the extension programs. What is the reason behind? We defined education as the process of bringing in desirable changes. So, by his involvement, the learner should change his own behavior. But through these projects, we are just emphasizing on the target. I covered 1, 2, 3, 100,000, lakhs, so on and so forth. Under such methodology, the ultimate user is not going to learn anything, but he is using the technology, but he is not learning anything about that technology. That is what is the gap that what we identified. So, he should have understood why I am going for improved qualities of seed. He should have understood why I am going for application of fertilizer, and he should have understood why I am going for plant protection chemical and what should be its proportion. All these things are going to be part of your educational approach. But we asked them to use the plant protection chemical without informing him what are the benefits or losses of it. So, that is the meaning of lack of educational approach. Then, the second drawback was stereotyped farm production plans. So, the basic issue was the primary producers or the farmers were not at all preparing all these production plans. That was prepared by the extension personnel, and again it is part of your lack of educational approach, and the same plans were repeated season after season, year after year. So, then we started feeling a type of monotony. So, that is what we termed it as a stereotyped production plan, and in the later part they started losing the interest. The third important element was cultivators were not using the plant protection chemicals, fertilizers, etc. on their own, because in the initial part of this particular program, the things were provided free of cost to these people, and they were using these things as long as you are giving it free. The moment you stop giving free of cost, so then they will not go for this thing. So, that was again the outcome of lack of educational approach, and which is going to influence the total production at the national level. The most important element was the lack of or little participation by women. When we analyze the activities or the involvement of women in agriculture, more than 50 to 60% of the operations are performed by women, but they were not at all part of any of the training programs or any of the developmental initiatives or the educational activities that we took up as a part of agricultural development. So, that is one of the important outcome of this particular analysis. One more important aspect was the allied enterprises were not given attention. The allied enterprises of agriculture like dairy, goatry, fishery, poultry, so on and so forth, they were not at all taken into consideration while giving the technology, inputs, resources, information, each and everything. So, that was another lacuna of this particular program. Keeping these things in view, the subsequent programs were planned and implemented that we will be discussing right after this. In the previous discussion, we were discussing about IADP and IAAP. The shortcomings that were identified as a part of IADP wherein the animal husbandry sector or the allied sectors of agriculture are not being covered by IADP, or any such programs were not there to cover the other sectors, was taken care of in the year 1964 by introducing intensive cattle development program. The outcomes of IADP, which revealed allied enterprises were not given any attention, led to the process of initiating program for cattle development. Cattle are inseparable component of agriculture in India. Both enterprises go hand in hand with symbiotic relationship. The more important thing is the output of the program, that is the milk, which is the source of daily income to the cattle owners. Hence, intensive cattle development program was launched. The objective of the program was to provide package of practices to the cattle owners to increase milk production. The package included cattle breeding, which provides an opportunity for cattle owners to increase milk production by improving the breeds with the help of crossbreeding and maintenance of pedigree of animals. Cattle owners were given education regarding crossbreeding and artificial insemination and its benefits. Crossbreeding with the indigenous and exotic breeds are possibilities. Both have been potential of enhancing the milk production. The second element of this ICDP was cattle nutrition, management of feed and fodder development. The studies on milk production reveal that about 70% of the cost of milk production goes to the animal nutrition. Educating cattle owners regarding cultivation of fodder, making use of crop residues, and appropriate formulation of mixing animal feeds and various such management practices are the part of program. The third element was healthcare practices. The important component of package included healthcare practices. Availability of veterinary doctors or trained paraveterinary professionals when needed can make larger change in milk production. Hence, it was ensured under ICDP, that is the availability of the veterinary professionals. The fourth element was dairy extension. The developments in animal husbandry sector were taken to farming community through dairy extension efforts. Organizing people and educating cattle owners using extension methods were the major interventions. Also, good amount of subsidies and incentives were given to cattle owners for increasing milk production. With this program, the need of the people, that is, the allied enterprises, should be given due emphasis was taken care of. The next program in the line was High Yielding Variety Program, popularly known as HYVP. This program was introduced in the year 1964-65. The High Yielding Variety Program is remembered by every individual associated with agriculture and allied sciences. The major issue we discussed in the context, that is the food crisis. At the time of independence and immediately after independence, there was a severe shortage of food grains throughout the country. Also, there existed drought-like situation in good number of parts of the country, influencing the food production. With the continuous efforts of research and extension agencies, the positive response from farming community led to the success of high yielding variety program, which is popularly known as Green Revolution. The main reason behind identifying the period as Green Revolution is country almost achieved the self-sufficiency in food production and dependency on food suppliers came to an end. As an outcome of primary producers also recognized the benefits of technology and its implications. To achieve green revolution, high yielding varieties were introduced in the command areas of the nation. The varieties were developed by a team of scientists led by Dr. Norman E. Borlaug. When these varieties were to be introduced in India, lot of lab and field research work was taken up under the leadership of Dr. M. S. Swaminathan along with a team of scientists. What made Green Revolution so successful? The main staple food grains of the nation, rice and wheat, were the target crops to begin with. The varieties introduced were having the following qualities. The first quality of these high yielding varieties was, as the name itself indicates, the varieties were high yielding. With this quality, there was significant difference in the yield realized by the farmers compared to the previous yields. The second quality included the varieties of rice and wheat were having short height. The traditional varieties cultivated in India were having more height, hence producers were facing the problem of lodging frequently, because of which there was loss of yield. The beauty of high yielding varieties were the vegetative growth was translated into reproductive growth. With this, the dual benefits was realized by the farmers. Because of reduced height, the plant problem of lodging was overcome, and the second, the same plant started giving more yield. The Green Revolution varieties were also having the quality of a short duration. The traditionally cultivated varieties were of longer duration. The new seeds were of shorter duration. The benefits for the cultivators was, because of the short duration, the crop used to escape easily many weather vagaries, and even if there is a delay in sowing, there is no reduction in the yields. The fourth and the most important quality was the new varieties were fertilizer responsive. Compared to the traditional varieties, the high yielding varieties were responding to all the inputs, not only fertilizer like fertilizer, water, plant protection, chemicals, etc. With the participation of farmers, researchers and extension workers, the Green Revolution was a reality. The people who became aware of the outcome of the program started adopting new varieties and followed package of practices as suggested by the extension professionals. This effort became base for understanding the research extension farmer dynamics. Now we are going to discuss the program which was launched for marginal farmers and agricultural laborers. The program is also named in the same way, that is Marginal Farmers and Agricultural Laborers Program, launched in the year 1970-71. The objective of the program was to assist marginal farmers in diversifying the enterprises along with crop husbandry for productive utilization of their limited resources. The diversification options included going for horticultural crops, which are generally low volume, high value products, animal husbandry, which ensures income on daily basis, poultry, piggery, etc. Initially, the program was launched in 40 selected districts with the farmers having less than 1 hectare land or less than 2.5 acres of land. The farmers covered under the project were given subsidy of up to 33.3% on all inputs used for the enterprise. Apart from that, there were training programs organized to take care of the skill aspects. With this program, the capacity building was ensured for marginal farmers and agricultural laborers. In the same period, the country has observed severe droughts in different parts. So, to take care of the drought situation and the drought-like situation and to develop appropriate strategy to face the drought situation in the country, the drought-prone area program was launched in the year 1970-71. The objectives of the program included long-term development of the area with a view to restore ecological balance, for which there were good number of watershed approaches were adopted and afforestation programs were taken up. Short-term program for development with the help in improving the lot of community in general and small and marginal farmers and agricultural laborers in particular. So, taking care of all the sectors of the sections of the society, drought prone area program was implemented. The target activities were in situ moisture conservation, management and development of irrigation resources, livestock development, modifying agronomic practices, afforestation, etc., so that we can conserve each and every drop of rainwater and we can enhance the recharge of groundwater so that water is available everywhere, at least in those areas which are susceptible for drought at regular intervals. So, the next program that we are going to discuss is Technology Mission on Oilseeds, which was implemented in the year 1986. The objective of this program, as the title itself is self-explanatory, to promote the oilseed production at the national level. So, there are certain important issues that we need to discuss before we go into the key points of this particular program. So, India is one of the largest producer of oilseeds in the world. With that largest producer, even today in the year 2015 that we are talking of, India is importing around 4 million tons of edible oil from different countries. Why there is a huge gap? A largest producer in the world is still importing the same commodity where he is having the largest production. Why it is so? Means we are not able to meet the domestic demands. It is not the situation which has emerged today. This was there way back in the 80s also, almost 3 decades back. So, under such circumstances, government has developed good number of programs for meeting out the local demands or the domestic demands in case of oilseed production. So, the first key point of this particular program of technology mission on oilseeds was improvement in production technology. As a part of this improvement in production technology, good number of varieties were developed and transferred to the farmers so that they can adopt these improved varieties of oilseed production and they can enhance the total oil seed production at the national level. The development was done in line with the cereal crops that what we have seen in the green revolution period, development of new varieties, high yielding varieties, and good number of such varieties were introduced as a part of this particular program. Since oilseed cultivation involves good number of inputs, rather it is bit input intensive crop, so farmer need some additional financial requirements for cultivation of this particular crop. Looking into that, government provided the credit facilities through the financial institutions so that farmers can come forward and take up this particular crop. And one more thing associated with the oil seed is, if you are selling oil seed as it is going to fetch comparatively lesser price in the market compared to when you add certain value to that, means when you extract the oil, edible oil, and when you market it, definitely you are going to fetch the higher price in the market. Just to motivate the primary producers, it is not that you are going to sell the oil seeds, but you can extract the oil and you can sell the oil in the market so that your income levels are going to be increased. For that, there were good number of efforts made to introduce good amount of post harvest technology. Oil expellers of different capacities, which can be used by the household women, which can be taken up in a commercial basis, the expellers which can be installed at the village level or at the commercial level, were designed and manufactured by various companies, and they were supplied to the primary producers so that farmers can be motivated towards oilseed cultivation and its processing also. So, that is another feature of this particular program. So, then the next element that was added to this program was, it is not that the primary producers, but industry was also given lot of support through this particular program. The edible oil industry was given support for adoption of post harvest technology, financially, technically, and all types of supports was given to the people who were interested in establishing the oil extracting companies or the units or whatever it is on a large scale or on a commercial scale. All these features started increasing the agriculture, oilseed production at the national level, but still as on date there is a huge gap that needs to be met as far as the oilseed production is considered. The next program now we are going to discuss is Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium, which was launched in the year 1994. There are good number of programs for taking care of production and processing, but the farmers were and are still facing the problems with marketing of agricultural produce. The Vision program was emphasizing on promoting agribusiness by encouraging public and private sector investment and linkages to ensure the empowerment of farmers. Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium is working with the mission on linking small farmers to technology as well as to market in association with private, corporate or cooperative sector, and if necessary by providing backward as well as forward linkages. The objectives of Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium include to catalyze agro-industrial growth in the country based on the principles of ecological sustainability, economic efficiency and social equity. The second objective is to undertake or assist in undertaking programs for employment generation, growth and diversification of agriculture and agro-based industries to increase food production and export of agricultural products in both primary and processed forms. As on date, when we look into the processing status of agricultural produce in India, it is hardly less than 10%. So, which is having highest potential in the international market where there is highest demand also. But we in Indian context, we are not able to harness that potential, but efforts are being made through programs like Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium. The third objective of this program was to identify and promote post-harvest processing manufacturing units in public, private and cooperative sector. Fourth objective was to promote organization of marketing chain both for domestic and export marketing. Until and unless farmers are going to take interest in the marketing aspects, they are not going to realize the best possible incomes for their produce. So hence, again and again, the issue of marketing and the establishment of the marketing chains was emphasized with the help of various programs. To influence government policies for agriculture, thereby increasing flow of resources and augmenting the rate of capital formation in agriculture sector. The investment in agricultural research and extension is comparatively low in case of Indian agriculture. So, that is what is going to influence the research as well as the developmental activities in agricultural sector. Hence, an effort is being made to influence the policymakers so that much amount can be demarcated for the agricultural research and development activities so that we can take up good number of extension activities to increase the socio-economic conditions of the society. The sixth objective of this SFAC was to pave the way for establishment of neglected producers organization with forward and the backward linkages. With the amendments to the Companies Act in the year 2005, there are good number of opportunities for the primary producers to organize themselves into producer groups and producer companies for exporting their products, and they can enter into the international markets. So, there are good number of such promotional activities that are being done. The seventh objective was to prepare, print and publish papers, periodicals, monographs in furtherance of objectives of the society. Basically, to promote this particular concept of agribusiness among the farming community, all possible mediums are being used by the Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium. SFAC implements the programs such as promotion of value addition to agricultural produce, maybe through setting up part processing, semi-processing and full processing facilities. Through establishment of agribusiness ventures all over the country, mostly in collaboration with the private sector and active cooperation of commercial banks. With the introduction of such interventions in the among the farming community, definitely it is going to help them to increase their incomes. So, students, the programs which were technology intensive, we have seen 7 such different programs under this module. Now, to put all these programs as a part of this conclusion, what we did learn out of these efforts? The programs like IADP and IAAP were instrumental where the farmers understood about the importance of the adoption of improved agricultural practice. That was the most important educational input that was given to the farmers. When we identified certain lacuna under IADP and IAAP, that were rectified by formulating and implementing the programs like ICDP, Intensive Cattle Development Program, which was launched to take care of the animal husbandry sector, which was neglected in earlier efforts. The programs like Small Farmers Developmental Agency, Marginal Farmer and Agricultural Laborers Program, which these are the two sections of the societies where the small and marginal farmers, again they were neglected, and through these programs they were brought to the mainstream. SFDA and MFAL for small and marginal farmers, and drought prone area program for the drought prone regions of the country took care of the drought prone areas. So, all the sections of the societies and all the regions of the countries were covered through these programs. To bring the changes in the processing and marketing of agricultural produces, Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium was introduced in the year 1994. Still, the program is running for the benefit of farmers. The key issue in all these programs were the people's participation. Again and again, we are emphasizing on the participation. Until and unless you are going to participate in these programs, you are not going to be benefited, and it is having the influence on the national development or the state's development or the regional development also. Thank you.